Today, we're not just talking about some abstract topic. Nope. We are building a toolkit. A toolkit for thinking better, for communicating more clearly, and honestly, for seeing the world with a whole lot more precision. We're going to break down the fundamentals of logic. I mean, seriously, think about it. You're surrounded by arguments every single day, right? From advertisers, politicians, your friends, even that little voice inside your own head. But how do you sift through all of it? How do you know if something is structurally sound or if it's just, persuasive noise? That's the big question we're going to tackle. So, at its heart, what is logic? Well, you can think of it as the official rulebook for reasoning. It's a system that gives us a way to ask one simple question. Does the conclusion you reached actually follow from the reasons you gave? It's basically our best defense against sloppy thinking. So, here's our game plan. We're going to start with the absolute basics, the raw materials of reasoning. Then we'll see how they're put together, look at the two main blueprints for arguments, and finish up with the ultimate quality control test, so you can spot the gold standard, a sound argument. Okay, let's dive right in. Every single argument, I don't care how simple or how mind-bendingly complex, is built from the exact same fundamental material, and that material is called propositions. These are the absolute raw materials for any kind of reasoning. Think of propositions like the bricks you use to build a house. Each individual brick makes a very specific claim about the world. And here's the key. That claim has to be either true or false. There's no in between. A proposition can't be kind of true. It's one or the other. So a statement like, the Amazon basin produces 20% of the Earth's oxygen, that's a classic proposition. It's making a factual claim. It might be true, it might be false, but it's one of them. But things like questions or commands or just exclamations, they're not propositions because you can't really say they're true or false. They don't assert anything. Okay, so we have our bricks, our propositions. Now let's talk about how we assemble them. We're moving from the raw materials to the actual blueprints for the structure we call an argument. Now, when we say argument in logic, we're not talking about a shouting match or a disagreement. It's a technical term. It just means a structure of support. You have your premises, those are the reasons you're offering, and then you have your conclusion, which is the point those reasons are supposed to lead to. And check this out. This little sentence from Jeremy Bentham is a perfect, complete argument. The conclusion is, every law is an evil. And that little word for, that's a huge clue. It's what we call a premise indicator. It's signaling that the reason, the evidence, is coming next. This is a really subtle but super important point. It all comes down to the author's intent. If I say, the tower is called Babel because the Lord confounded the language there, I'm not trying to convince you that the tower's name is Babel. I assume you already know that. I'm explaining why it has that name. An argument tries to persuade you that something is true. An explanation tells you why something you already accept is true is the case. All right, so it turns out there are two main blueprints for building these arguments, and they each make a very, very different claim about how strong the connection is between the reasons and the conclusion. This is a massive distinction. A deductive argument is going for an ironclad mathematical guarantee. It's saying, look, if my premises are true, my conclusion is absolutely inescapable. Inductive arguments, on the other hand, they live in the world of probability. They're saying the conclusion is likely true, but not 100% certain. And for the rest of this explainer, we're just going to focus on deductive arguments. And here's the deal with them. Think of their structure like a light switch. It is either on or it's off. The logic either works perfectly, and we call that valid, or it fails completely, invalid. There is no dimmer switch. So let's get to the most important part of our toolkit. We're going to see how all this stuff builds up to the idea of a truly great argument. This is the ultimate quality control test for any deductive claim you ever hear. Okay, listen up, because this is the one idea that trips almost everybody up at first. Validity is only about the logical structure, the blueprint. It doesn't care one bit if the statements are actually true in the real world. Truth, on the other hand, is all about the content of the propositions, the bricks themselves. Do they actually match reality? You know who understood this separation perfectly? Abraham Lincoln. He was a master logician. He looked at a key argument supporting the Dred Scott decision and basically said, look, the reasoning is flawless. The structure is valid, but he rejected the conclusion because he showed that one of its main premises, one of its bricks, was just factually false. He separated the valid structure from the untrue bricks. Just brilliant.
And this can feel kind of weird, but an argument can be perfectly valid even if every single thing about it is totally false. For example, I could say, all four-legged creatures have wings. All spiders have four legs. Therefore, all spiders have wings. Now, every part of that is nonsense, but the reasoning is perfectly valid. If those crazy premises were true, the conclusion would have to be true.
This table sums it all up, but I want you to focus on one thing. There is one unbreakable rule in all of logic. Just look at that top left box, a valid argument with true premises. Notice what it says? It can only lead to a true conclusion. This means it can never, ever have a false conclusion. That is the one impossible combination. If your blueprint is perfect and your bricks are solid, the house has to stand. And that right there brings us to the gold standard, a sound argument. This is the whole package. It's an argument that gets everything right. It has a perfect, valid structure, and it is built with verifiably true premises. A sound argument is the only type of argument that guarantees its conclusion is true.
So here it is, your takeaway. You now have a 4-step process to dissect any deductive argument you come across. First, identify the propositions, find the bricks. Second, analyze the argument's structure, look at the blueprint. Third, test that blueprint for validity. And finally, number 4, verify the premises. Check if the bricks are true. Only if it passes all 4 of those tests can you call it a sound argument.
And you know, this framework isn't just a clever way to analyze what other people are saying. Its real power comes when you use it for some self-reflection. It pushes us to ask a really tough but really important question. Are the beliefs we hold most dearly actually built on a foundation of sound logic? Or maybe, is it time to check our premises?